Welcome to the Microsoft Security Insight Show. The show streams live at 5 every Wednesday evening on YouTube and Twitch and streamed directly into your ear the following Monday. Hosted by Edward Walton, Andrea Fisher, Rod Trent, and Brody Castle, the Microsoft Security Insight Show provides information, news, and tips on Microsoft security solutions.
Today, recorded March 8th, 2023. It is also National Women's Day.
International.
Yeah,
it's all of them, all the nations.
It's the whole world. And I knew that though. It's popping all up. My wife is on some called, with the junior league, so she's doing something with that too. But no, it's a Wednesday. Things are good. This has been a quiet week, having fun. Geeking out a little bit. I got a little dead period. I'm working in the lab, sort of blew everything away. So, Andrew, if you go into the lab and see stuff missing, it's me. I'm redoing everything. I didn't mess with the stat stuff, but I'm blowing away MDI, all new servers. I'm going to run 2012 R2 16 in server 2020, and I'm going to put 2 log collectors in Azure, and I'm going to put 2 on premise. I'm going to play with an unsupported distro. I don't think Fedora is supported, but I'm going to see if I can make it work. Yeah, so I'm playing around with that. What else? You got a funny story. I don't know, Andrew, do we need to tell it? How great minds think alike. So I'm sitting here telling Andrew all about my vacation plans coming up here. She's like, oh my God. So I'll let her tell that story there. But other than that, I put a clean shirt on today.
Well, that's a first.
I think, you guys will see me. I'm working on some stuff for the show in the background about getting our own environment and getting all these loose parts consolidated. And that's it. Rod, on a personal note, got my run in today. I thought I was going to run again. Then the temperature went from being warm this morning to cold. I have no idea. We're doomed. The plan is doomed. There you go.
Oh, come on. You don't know cold. Come up here. Fly to Canada. It was minus 20 this morning.
That's it? Woo.
Yeah. Well, actually, that is. It's not bad considering.
What is minus 20? 10 degrees?
I don't know. In freedom units, I'm not sure. I'd have to look that up. I'd have to ask.
Freedom units.
Freedom. Yeah. There you go.
There you go. I like that.
Nothing else. I haven't broken anything.
Except for the lab.
Well, that was a deliberate break because it just got messy.
Yeah.
And, I don't know if I kicked Frank out yet. I talked to him, so he'll be all right. That's all I got. Pretty mundane week for me, and I enjoy that.
Cool. Andrea, what about you? What's new this week?
Oh, well, what Edward was talking about, it's so funny. He was saying that he was going to go to Prague with Miriam for vacation, and I am taking my nephew to Prague at the end of his semester at school. Nice. And when are you going to Prague? We're actually going on the exact same day.
Oh my!
So we're going to meet up and have drinks in Prague. So very excited about that. So an amazing coincidence. I'm also excited. I get to see Edward next week at the CrowdStrike. I probably shouldn't say that at this event that we're going to out in Redmond next week. So
fun times. That sounds great. On my end, I've got a few consultants that I've been mentoring. They're 2 amazing women, and they're looking for their next projects. And so I've been working with them to identify what they want to work on next. I'm like, stay in security. You want to work in security. It's $20 billion a year. It's fun. You have a lot of impact. And so we're talking about different options, and they're just so passionate and excited. And I love it. It's one of my favorite parts of my job right now.
Wait a minute. You make $20 billion a year?
I don't.
I knew you were going to say that.
I'm involved in the overall story. Yeah, I'd like to think we all are. I think our guests can speak to that.
Because I'm grossly underpaid. I was going to have to go have a discussion with someone.
I think I personally helped with 10 of that.
Even Noodle McToodles said, you get paid $20 billion a year? Wow.
And I jumbled my words. I'm just excited. today.
And Noodle, to answer your question, what happens on Fantasy Island stays on Fantasy Island. There you go.
So that's all for me. No 20. I don't even know what I would do with 20 billion a year.
I
Probably
do.
turn into a philanthropist. Yeah.
That's not one of them.
No. Okay.
No.
What about you, my friend?
Oh, is it my turn? Oh,
You can go. Yeah, I tried to keep it short and sweet.
Brutal.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, that was good. I thought maybe you'd talk about taking Fridays off for the rest of the year, but that's okay. We'll talk about that later. Well, I'm going to use my time just to kind of highlight what we're doing this month. So this is Women in Cybersecurity Month. We have been so absolutely fortunate to have the guest lineup that we do. And when we get to our guest tonight, I think everybody's going to be awestruck as well as part of that. For those that missed last week's show, and if you did, shame on you. That was like amazing show. Maria Thompson, the MISA lead at Microsoft, she was on, and oh my goodness. I don't want to scare Vasu in any way, I'm sorry, I didn't even introduce her yet, but our guest tonight, but Maria just did an absolute awesome job last night. The content and the things she talked about was just absolutely wonderful. I really took away a lot from last week. So that was great. I know tonight's going to be absolutely amazing. Next week, I definitely want to highlight this, particularly for our listeners instead of the watchers, right? Because we're on a Tuesday next week. This is normally on Wednesday. We're on Tuesday at 1 p.m. Eastern time instead of Wednesday at 5. Ann Johnson, our buddy Ann Johnson, is on next week. And when Ann says I can only show up on Tuesday at 1 p.m., we go, okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
The following week, March 22nd, back on that Wednesday, we have a couple cloud security PMs from Microsoft, Laura and Future. And then we're ending this Women in Cybersecurity Month on March 29th. Also Wednesday with Elizabeth Stevens, the Director of DC Cyber Risk Intelligence. So, I mean, this is a crazy month. This is crazy awesome. Probably next week or so, we'll talk a little bit more about what we have planned for April. You know, as we're leading up to RSA in next month, we're actually having a lot of our MISA partners on next month as we lead up to RSA. One of our partners, I'm not going to mention it yet, will actually be on the show from the RSA Expo. So that's going to be kind of cool. Maybe doing some interviews. Who knows what this individual will do? She's a little nuts. Who knows? Right?
Yeah, that's an understatement. But one of my most favorite people, got to interact with her, break bread, drink beer. I did not realize how deep she was. Her experiences. Yeah. You know it, but you don't know it until you sit down and you can have a real lay your hair back, chat. And I'm like, oh my God. She's done a lot. So I'm excited to see that. I wish I could be there. But everyone doesn't have the big pockets like Miss Andrea Fisher. Can I borrow?
So she's taking you to Seattle next week. Is that what you're saying?
Pretty much. I'm flying on her charter. She said, "Oh, my driver picked you up."
You want to invite me? That's rude. All right.
We don't do international pickups.
You guys are like rock stars. Have your Learjet. She probably has her name on the side of a plane.
Are we ready to bring our guest on, Fred?
If you are, Andrea.
Right. So we're super excited today to bring on Vasu Jakkal, who is the Corporate Vice President at Microsoft Security, Compliance, Identity, and Privacy. Woo-hoo! Welcome. And also, as Edward mentioned earlier, it is International Women's Day. So what a treat to have our international woman on International Women's Day.
Well, thank you, Andrea. Am I live? Can you all see me?
You are.
Yes.
Okay. Well, gosh, I have big shoes to fill. It was Maria last week, and isn't she like just awesome? It's going to be hard to fill those shoes. And may I say, what a fun gang. I was listening to you all in the back room, and I'm like, wow, this is going to be a fun show. So excited to get started. And before we get started, happy International Women's Day. I mean, just to think back, Andrea, that we couldn't even vote once upon a time. Certainly have come a long way. So may the power and the force be with us. And here's wishing all of the wonderful women all across the world. I'm a hardcore Trekkie, so I'll say live long and prosper.
Right.
Oh, perfect. Thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it, Vasu.
My
Andrew,
pleasure.
you want to ask our first question?
Absolutely. So Vasu, honestly, we ask everybody this, but especially during this Women's Cybersecurity Month, I think it'll be great to hear your story. Tell us about your journey. How did you end up where you are today in cybersecurity and Microsoft and the whole journey?
Yeah, well, it was accidental, but it started when I was, I would say, pretty young, I guess, my love for eventually what would be cybersecurity. So, Andrea, I grew up in pretty humble beginnings in India. I was born there. And when I was about 8 or 9 years old, I came across this show called Star Trek. And it really, really changed my life. I didn't know what it was. I didn't know what they were doing. That was technology, but I knew I wanted to be on that. I wanted to be on that ship. And someone told me that's what science looks like. And if I wanted to get on the ship, I needed to do science. So I did science. I studied engineering, and I got into technology. I joined Intel, the semiconductor company, right out of school. And it was a fun ride. I've learned how to do silicon engineering and build things. The Starship was still far away. And when I was doing that, I sort of somewhere along the line fell in love with cybersecurity. When we build technology which enables others to do the things they need to do, we also need to think about how to do that safely. And so my career has meandered through many, many different roles and different functions. I was there when cybersecurity was a backroom conversation, and today it's a boardroom conversation. When I started in security, it was good old cyber espionage, nation state, and look at right now, it's ransomware, which is the looming threat, facing all of us. And it's always been mission driven. So my encounter with cybersecurity was through technology. As an engineer, I've worked across many companies, done many different roles. And it's been a very inspiring journey, but it was very accidental.
Yeah, go ahead.
I have to ask the second question too, now that we know. What is your who is your favorite Star Trek captain of all time?
Oh, man.
I'm an OG, I have to say. So it's Captain Kirk all the way.
That's awesome.
You can't go wrong with William Shatner.
If I may, okay, since we're talking Star Trek, I was going to save this till the end of the call because I knew Vasu was a Trekkie. But Vasu, how have you watched the new series Discovery, Strange New Worlds, Picard? How do you feel about them? Oh, I love that.
You have to watch them, but
well, I want to hear. Vasu, tell us how you feel about them. How do you feel about the reboot?
Nice, all the questions. Okay, how do I feel about it, Brody? I love it. I love Discovery. You have to love Michael. You have to, right? You see that, and you have to love her. So I love it. I have to say, Andrea, I've also seen the shift in terms of just diversity and what that looks like and the different roles. And really, one of the reasons I like Star Trek because there's such a cultural nuance to it.
Mm-hmm.
There always has been. They've tackled some of the hardest things that society faces. Remember Uhura? And they have brought that to life in the show, and they've shown us what technology can do. So I love all Star Treks. OG is my favorite. Come on, Spock, Bones.
Yeah.
I love it, right? But I also love Discovery. I haven't finished Strange New Worlds, so I still have to watch that.
Strange New Worlds is awesome, but Captain Janeway is the captain.
No.
You're stranded. Oh,
Benjamin Sisko. It's Benjamin Sisko.
Sisko's good. Sisko's good.
Voyager is my favorite of all the series, even though Picard is good. Strange New Worlds is excellent. If you haven't watched it yet, it is excellent.
Oh, so you're gonna love Strange.
I love they're all good, except for, strangely enough, I am fans of the series, not real big fans of the movies.
Fair. The reboots and everything. Apparently, they're going to recast the Next Generation crew for a new series of movies in the new kind of format. So there's going to be a new Picard.
Right here.
Hey, I'd be into that. Yeah, I'm sure.
I'll answer the casting call. Vasu, I'm so happy that you're a Star Trek fan. I grew up on Star Trek. My mom would make dinner every day, and Star Trek came on at 6 p.m. And if he was late for dinner, boy, I was mad because I was watching the reruns from 6 to 7. I had to watch, no matter how many times I watched it. We have, I don't know if you ever think about this, but the number of technologies that came out
Oh,
from
yeah.
Star Trek, right? The cell phone and stuff like that. What's one technology that we still don't have that you're kind of still looking for? When you started this whole trek, I want to be an
Beam
engineer.
me up, Scotty.
Right.
Yeah,
God,
exactly.
beam me up, Scotty.
Yeah.
I mean, oh my God. Like, can you imagine how many hours, days, weeks we would save?
Oh,
Every time I get
travel
on a
budget.
I'm
Yeah.
just like, oh my God, like just beam me up, Scotty. So I want that. I want that technology.
Yeah, my family, they make fun of me because I don't like these road trips. I don't like the journey. I just like getting to that place.
Me
if it's
too.
the beach, I want to be on the beach.
Totally.
And that's where the transporter would come in. Absolutely.
Instantly, as if we are not an instant gratification culture as is. Like that would just take it to the next level. We may lose some body parts along the way, but hey, who's counting?
So
Fun
you
flavor.
talked about it being unintended, right? For you to, and we talked about this a little bit last week. And I think, from my personal perspective, the things that I've been most successful with have been those things that I didn't plan or those things that happened unintentionally. So as you kind of moved into this role at Microsoft, talk about that a little bit. How did you get into this role at Microsoft from that unintentional perspective?
Absolutely. I was at a company called FireEye Mandiant before I joined
I know those guys. Yeah.
Before I joined Microsoft, and super mission driven on the front lines of security. I loved it. And when I was Microsoft was our partner, like we worked with Microsoft closely, and so my journey with Microsoft started like a couple of years before I joined Microsoft. And the reason I decided that this was the right place for me is just in early 2020, I was going through my own soul searching on what do I need to do? Who am I? I have 3 kids, and I was looking at the world. There was a lot of hurt around the world, if you remember that time. And just kind of evaluating what can I do with my platform, with my voice? How do I live my purpose? I'm a big believer in purpose and passion and people. And so as I was going through that, and Microsoft again had reached out and I was talking to them, I knew the cybersecurity journey at Microsoft. I'd watched it closely. And I felt like if there was any one company which could truly change the course and reshape security the way it needs to be, it was Microsoft. So that's what that was the main reason that I decided to join Microsoft. And then there was something Satya had said. He said that there's a lot of hurt in the world around us, and it's up to each of us to use our platforms for good and positivity. And that kind of just sealed the deal, right? So I love Microsoft. I love our team. I love the people. I love the work. It's been an incredibly inspiring journey. And I think we have a very special culture at the heart of it. We want to do good, and we want to do it good, lifting others in the community with us. So those were all the reasons I joined. And Brody, I was listening to what you were saying before I came live on stage, and just the people who come to us and ask us about cybersecurity. We have a long way to go, Rod. We have a long way to go. But the fact that we can be that symbol of hope, and we can change the dialogue of security from fear and FUD to optimism and hope and drive freaking growth. Yes, we are a $20 billion business. Gosh, we've doubled in 2 years, right? When I joined, we announced 10 billion like 6 months after I joined. And look at us, 2.5 years later, like a $20 billion business. So I think we get to do that. We get to create possibilities. We get to create opportunities. And while mine was unintentional, Rod, I hope that others who are younger in their careers or who have been in the journey for 60 plus years still look at cybersecurity and choose it. So Brody, plus 1,000 to the 2 consultants that you are mentoring. Yes, cybersecurity is the place to be. That was a very long-winded answer, Rod, but I get a little emotional on these.
No, I love that. I think that's great. That really shows kind of your passion for what you're doing right now. And you probably had people that helped you along the way, right? Put you on the path and determine what it was that you wanted to accomplish. So that's when we talk about the mentorship and stuff. Yeah.
I'm a big believer in that. Look at what were the odds of me making it? Like many times I just stop, I pause and say, should I even be here doing the thing? It's such a privilege to do what I do. leadership is a privilege, right? Like having our roles, each of us, and the platform, that's a privilege. And for some person, this girl in India who was growing up, got inspired by a show, took a bet, and for people across the 7 seas, literally across the continents, to take a bet, we all need sponsors. And I've been very lucky and fortunate to have great people who have watched over me, who've given me chances when they didn't need to, who have mentored me, who've coached me, but really been my sponsors to be the voice for me in rooms that I was not in. And that has helped and guided me. And to this date, right, I count myself very blessed that there's so many sponsors I have in the community, outside Microsoft, at Microsoft, and that's a difference maker. So hopefully we can all be that to someone else.
I can totally relate with your story. Short of being in, having different birthplaces, our backgrounds seem eerily similar, right? And I like to give thanks to all of those who have helped, because I've never been a person who had a delusion that I did this on my own. It was those who bet on me to say, I like how you go about your business, I like your passion, I like all these things. And I think that being in the industry for 20 plus years, I think that my energy must be genuine. I haven't changed careers. I've changed technology focuses, and I'm glad I've been in cybersecurity the past 12 years. But coming into cyber has allowed me to meet and create great, career peers, friends. Andrea on the show, open disclosure, me and her buddies and besties. and I love it. Your story here is just making me go back all the way in my head. It's like, Holly, I remember when I did that, I did this. But with all the good, what were the challenges that made you work harder? Because I'm sure there had to be challenges.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Technology, cybersecurity, there are not a lot of women, since today is International Women's Day. Let's start with that. And there definitely, Edward, there were not a lot of people who looked like me. I kind of check a lot of boxes when it comes to diversity. And when I used to look around and I used to be in rooms, it used to feel very lonely, right? It was also very hard to make a point because people like to go to familiar. And when there's not the familiar, and I certainly was not the familiar at the time when I was in those rooms, it's very hard for people to listen to that. So there was a challenge of being heard and having a voice. There was also, I feel, a challenge that I faced where there were just not a lot of people like me in leadership positions when I started out. So to look and to see, well, sometimes you have to see it to be it, or at least to believe it. And when you don't look at people like you, you wonder, like, what is that path then? Like, where can you go? And I should share this. I'm proud of it. I've had great role models at home, my grandmothers, my grandfathers, my mothers, but I am the first woman in my family to have a job outside the house.
Oh, wow.
And so, it is, but I had that belief instilled at a very young age to say, you can do whatever you want. You can be whoever you want. You come into the workforce and you don't see a lot of people like you and you feel different, and different is good. But at that time, like, you've got to cultivate that courage to be different. And so that was one of the harder things. Then coming to cybersecurity, I feel like cybersecurity, and it still is, but used to be a very exclusive place. It was for the few. Like, if you have done 25 years of this, then you can be a great cybersecurity professional. Well, how do you enter this club? And looking at that, a lot of people felt this is not for me. It's so technical, all these acronyms, language matters. When you talk in acronyms, you are excluding people who are not familiar with something. So be thoughtful, be inclusive. So there was a lot of complexity and acronym. We still do it, Edward. We still do it all the time, not just cybersecurity. So there were the two things. It was oh my God, feels pretty lonely. And how do I break that? And once you are in, how do I understand? How do I give it a voice? How do I have people who believe in me and also understand what's going around, right? So there are all these things that we have to think about. And I think the reason I'm sharing this is because there are a lot of people who I'm sure feel like that. By the way, we all have imposter syndromes. I have a giant imposter syndrome. So every time you go in, you're telling yourself, oh, good enough, good enough. And when people don't understand that, and we don't lead with empathy, and we are exclusive, it's hard. So those were some of the challenges I faced early on getting into cybersecurity, on just making it. And I also have to believe that everyone wants to drive an impact. And everyone, no matter how you have been, how long you've been in cybersecurity, or how little you've been in cybersecurity, we want to drive an impact, because our competition is evil. It's evil mindsets who are driving attacks. So let's act like a team and let's include people. So those were some of the challenges I felt, like a culture challenge. How many times have we heard, yeah, you won't understand this. This has just been the way it was. Well, how do you change the world? If every time you do the same things over and over and over again, like, we have a problem, right? We have a problem, Houston. And then how do you solve that if you don't include people? There's a beautiful saying I'll end with. I can't remember who said this to me. This was years back. They said, if diversity is like inviting someone to a party, inclusion is asking them to dance.
Mm-hmm.
Both those things are important, because if you invite someone to a party and they're just sitting around there, what a giant waste. So we need to be thoughtful, and we need to do everything we can, because the best teams are the most diverse teams. They have cognitive diversity, and they're the strongest teams. And I feel very strongly about that. So I use every opportunity I get to start that message. But those are some of the challenges I faced, Edward. And I wanted to flip it to say, what can we all do to tackle that?
Well, thank you so much for that. That is the open discussion that you shared. No slight to Rod and no slight to Brody, but me, you, and Andrea have our different challenges by virtue of sex and by virtue of our color of our skin. Mine,
totally.
Well, and Brody's Canadian, so
well, that's a wholly different deficiency. But yeah, my thing would be is, there were some unspoken cultural things, and I won't go into those now. But if I had to just name one that, for those that did sort of, whether it be family or close friends or secondary family, when I got into this industry, you've heard this, you have to be twice as good.
Oh, totally.
And I decided not to
totally.
I wanted to be really good, but then I realized I was fighting the same fight for everybody else that was really good. So I decided to go and work on those soft skills, because like you said, you can be very, very, you could be the master of your domain in what you do and be the top level. But if people are not comfortable with you, they go to a place of comfort. They believe it's safety. So I wanted to make sure I was that well-rounded person. So I got mentors of every different facet: sales, engineering, philanthropy, nonprofit. You can learn from everywhere. And when you become more well-rounded, if you listen close enough, you can find common ground to this person that you're trying to get to trust you, or at least listen to you without bias. So I'm totally understanding what you're saying. And while it is not perfect, it has gotten better.
Oh,
not
totally.
Better fast enough, but better.
And Edward, a lot of the biases we all do, right? Based on how we grew up, where are we at? But a lot of biases are unconscious biases. We don't even know we have them. And that's why having a dialogue on that, and that's why empathy matters, right? That's why compassion matters, because we all wear different shoes. But hey, if we put ourselves in someone else's shoes and try to understand that, gosh, what a beautiful world. And I do think it is up to us to do that. We stand on the shoulders of giants. We really do. And that's why I opened to Andrea, like, women couldn't vote at one time, right? I mean, there's so many other issues, Edward, like we faced as a society. But hey, look at us. Here we are, the five of us, having this conversation, changing security one heart at a time. So let's be the giants, or at least the people that others can stand on. And that's kind of what drives me every day. So we've come a long way, Edward. We have a long way to go.
Yeah. Thank you. That's really insightful. It's so happy to have you on and be able to have this conversation.
So we talked about, the inclusion, the culture, the evolution of that, and getting stronger as the good side of the force, right? But we're still a business. So within Microsoft and in your role, how do you navigate, is it important to be best of breed, or is it important to do the best that you can, because they're not mutually inclusive. And as I see that we go to the market with our security products, I'm sometimes wondering, did we go to the market to dominate this particular vertical, or we're doing this because we see that there's an absolute need and it's going to benefit everyone, maybe sometimes our competitors. So from a business aspect, what are your challenges in there?
Well, you asked me one of my most favorite questions. So now this is going to be a long draw. So
that's
be
awesome.
ready. So let me step back, right? Because our North Star in Microsoft security starts with understanding where the world is at. Today, we are facing 1287 attacks per second. That translates to billions of attacks per year. Today, our data indicates that on an average, it takes 72 minutes, 1 hour, 12 minutes from when a user clicks on a link, on a phishing link, for an attacker to get full access to their inbox. And it takes less than 2 hours for someone to move laterally in your networks. That's not a whole lot of time, and that's a whole lot of attacks. And then you take the talent shortage that we're facing, 3.5 million jobs, and you are now really tilting this in the favor of attackers. So these are the trends which have shaped our North Star, because our mission is to build a safer world. How do we do this? Because attacks come from everywhere. They can happen anywhere. They are, we don't know what's going to happen next. And also we have things like regulations and compliance and privacy and all of that, which we have to take into consideration. And there's a lot of changes there. So at the heart of Microsoft's strategy and differentiation and value proposition are two things. The first one is end-to-end, comprehensive security. We look at the entirety of your digital estate, everything, data, identities, devices, infrastructure, clouds, everything, and we protect you holistically. So that's one. We integrate 50 plus categories today, Edward, into 6 product lines: Defender, Sentinel, Purview, Entra, Priva, and Intune. And we bring them to life as one Microsoft Security Cloud. So the first one is end-to-end. The second one is AI and signal strength. Every single day, we process 65 trillion signals every day. And we use these insights combined with the human intelligence we see. We track 35 plus ransomware groups, 250 plus unique threat actors, and we bring this human and the SIGINT together to power this end-to-end portfolio. So that has been the strategy that we've led with. Now, you asked a really important question: best of breed, best of platform, what should we do? Well, both. Because our customers should not have to choose between them. And yeah, there was a time when it was just like siloed, providers of solution, but they don't need to choose anymore. Microsoft is best of category in 20 reports. The latest one just came out for all you geeks in cyber, the Jakkal Endpoint Protection Platforms MQ. Take a look and see where Microsoft is at. So we are best of breed in 20 reports. You take your endpoint, you take your management, you take your identity, you take your data security, top right. And that combined with the best of platform. So our customers don't need to choose. Additionally, we are multi-cloud and multi-plat. We protect you across all your platforms and all your clouds, so you don't have to choose GCP, AWS, Android, iOS, Mac OS, Linux, and we give you a whopping 60% savings for an equivalent competitive stack. So I think it's a little hard to beat that value proposition, don't you?
Well, you've done this before, Vasu.
I agree. I think in preparation for this call, I think I sent Andrea Brody, and probably a link that I sent to it from another podcast that I listened to. And it said that the average, customer that is transitioning to the cloud is using somewhere between 13 and 17 distinct security products.
More probably. More.
And so
I've seen 40 to 60, right?
I don't quote me on the number. I listened to it this morning out for a run, and I decided to send it to my peers on here. I said, this is pretty interesting. But, it's hard. And there's so many vectors. And in my days when I was a bad guy, paid.
A paid bad guy. That's a bank robber.
Yeah.
Stick them up.
Yeah.
I think someone said, and it's been touted. It's a buzz term. Nefarious actors hide in the noise, but also hide in the lack of integration.
Totally. I mean, absolutely. I mean, think about it. if you lock your door with 7 locks and you leave your window open, what's going to happen?
Or you don't trust your
That
kids.
literally is the people like, what? And you're saying, well, how are they entering? Well, these silos create gaps, right?
Oh, well put.
Sorry, full of
Absolutely.
metaphors today, am I not?
I love
No, that's
that.
great. Yeah.
I-
Or
I
it could be an
don't-
insider job. You don't trust your kids. They're like burning the house down behind you.
So let's.
That's that too.
So we promised not to ask a hard question. I'm not going to commandeer all the questions. My colleagues.
Oh, you're not?
they-
Okay.
Listen, you. Let me just throw it out there. There's a new shiny, and it's called ChatGPT on OpenAI. It's a new shiny, just like
I love it. I
Blockchain-
haven't heard anyone say it's a new shiny, so I'm going to use that, Edward. It's a new shiny. I
It's a
think
new
that
shiny.
sounds really cool.
the old shiny was blockchain that got overshadowed by cryptocurrency because you asked a layman person, what's blockchain? I don't know. What's Bitcoin? Oh, yeah, it's cryptocurrency. They're, so tell me your take on the new shiny. It's a new shiny thing.
Yeah, so I am a big believer in the power of AI to do good. Remember, I live in sci-fi land.
You said to do good. That's important.
To do good.
Yeah.
I'm deeply inspired by the work that we're doing with OpenAI. You've probably seen some of the announcements that have come from us. And I also think security is going to be a place where it's going to really make a difference, because one of the things that we say is our commitment is to deliver the easy button. I mean, we've been talking about security, the tools that you talked about, the 15, 20, 45, and there's so much complexity out there. It's hard, right? Like, think about the talent shortage that we have right now, millions of jobs, like teams are struggling. And if we can use AI to help automate, to help augment human expertise so that humans can be used for the most strategic and the creative things we need to do, I think there's a lot of power in that. So just as Satya said, you're going to see ChatGPT impact all of the areas at Microsoft. We're exploring, what does that mean? How can we leverage that? Like, what are the big use cases and all of that goodness? So it is really cool what we're doing. There's a bunch of announcements that we have made over the last few weeks, and I'm sure there's more coming.
The resident,
sure there's
AI
more
and machine
coming.
learning experts on this call are Andrew and Rod. Me and Brody can't spell AI.
I can spell. Edward.
You go AI.
Oh, okay. The Canada joke. Wow, we're on the Canadian today.
Hey,
Good.
speaking of
Okay.
which, while I'm going to interject really quick, because I know Brody has a question, but Vasu, don't you have a super cool event, brand new, coming up, like the end of the month?
I do, and there's going to be really cool announcements there, Rod. So we have an event on March 28th. For the first time, Microsoft is going to have a flagship security event. So just like we have Ignite and we have Build for developers, we're going to have Microsoft Secure for security. I'm so proud of that, and I'm so excited about that. And in that, we're going to have our announcements. And AI is, of course, top of mind for us, and what an AI-driven future looks like.
Is that, and I work here, I should know, right? Is that wholly virtual, or will there be any in person? Okay.
It's wholly virtual because, we were just conscious of this year and travel and all of that good stuff. And so you can be in your favorite jammies on your couch with popcorn and your favorite beverage. Hot chocolate is mine. And you can watch Microsoft Secure.
Awesome.
Okay. I was pitching to say, if it's in person, the Microsoft Security Insight show.
We could do a live stream. Yeah.
Do a live stream with up on stage.
With French fries and pizza.
Love
it.
And Tim Tams. That's my new favorite.
Tim Tams. Oh, I love Tim Tams.
Tim Tams are amazing. You bite off each of the opposing corners and you sip the coffee through it.
Yes. I was in Australia. I just did that with cold milk.
Yeah.
My God, it was delicious. So every night.
What's a Tim Tam?
Yeah, I don't
Look
know
it up, Edward.
They have them at Costco
send
now.
Edward a package of Tim Tams now.
Yeah, 100%. I'll send some, Edward. I'll send some.
It's a bad idea. I was on such a great health journey this year, and then I discovered the freaking Tim Tam Slam with cold milk, and now that's my third child is a golden retriever. He salivates, like he loves to drink the leftover milk after I'm done. So it's crazy.
I didn't know you had a dog. It's amazing. Yeah, Tim, they're dangerous. They're dangerous, Vasu. Yeah, absolutely. The caramel ones, especially.
Oh, I haven't tried those. Thanks, Brody.
Oh, they're good. Yeah, definitely, definitely. So, Vasu, okay, one of the things that I think a lot of people really admire about you is how you can communicate to all of the defenders across the whole world through your social media presence, through your interviews with industry leaders in cybersecurity. I just love being able to watch those interviews, be able to watch those updates, and to see the passion, the true passion that comes from you, talking about these aspects. That type of impact has to be amazing for you in your personal and career growth. What an amazing role. How knowing that you have that platform and knowing that we reach such large audiences, like how can we reduce the skills gap in cybersecurity? How can we get more women, more people of color to work in security, and you help use your voice and others? Yeah, I know dinner's coming, dog. Okay, I'm asking Vasu to call a question. Okay.
Tim Tam Slams.
Oh, he can't. If he eats chocolate, it's no good. It's no good. But yeah, I want to know how can we use our platforms? How can we use this this great thing we call the internet, the big bad internet? How can we get the message out to join cybersecurity, to fulfill the ranks across gender, across race, et cetera, across education and backgrounds as well? Because people come from different backgrounds in terms of how to afford to get into cybersecurity, right? So how do we fulfill across all the different diversity platforms?
Yeah. So first of all, Brody, thank you for the kind words. I feel like I'm a very small person serving a very big office, and that is because I have a massive village who supports me. So all of that is as a result of the team, really. So I just wanted to share that. And yes, one of the reasons I do social media is because I really do hope that by our actions and what we put out there, we can inspire others to join this journey. Because remember, to be it, sometimes you have to see it, right? And you have to believe it. There are so many things that we can do to reduce the gap on cybersecurity, right? It's just like 24% of the workforce is made of women, and the minority numbers are even more stark. So we have a long way to go. Couple of things on this. I'm a big believer that at every stage in the life cycle, you have to go and address the gap. So when you are in school, we need to work with the education system to help girls and boys and all genders and races and people understand what cybersecurity is. I mean, think of Maslow's hierarchy, Brody, and right there with food, water, shelter, just like your puppy saying, food, there's safety. Well, what is safety? Safety is digital safety. That's what we do. So it's such a mission-driven thing. We have to be telling our kids what cybersecurity is. That's why we partner with organizations like Girl Security to reduce that gap. I love that organization. Lauren, who's the founder, is just amazing. When we get into the higher education and universities, we need to make sure that cybersecurity is a course. It's not like fries with the burger. It's the whole burger too. And how do we educate people? How do we have courses? How do we simplify it? How do we make it more engaging? How do we make it interesting for people how do we make it simple to understand? So training our kids and through the education system. And then the way we recruit has to change. I was at, again, just my recent trip, we did this women's event. And some of the job descriptions the women were telling me, they were raising their hand, like, we want to join cybersecurity. But you look at these job descriptions and you're like, wow.
40 years experience.
I wouldn't qualify for any job, Brody. I'm like, oh my God, I don't qualify for this job, right? So we put so many certifications, we put so many degrees, and you're like, gosh, is that what is really needed for this job? Like, what is needed for this job? And so I think the way we write job descriptions, like, we need to be inviting, we need to be welcoming, we need to be strategic about that. And then once you hire, create a very inclusive culture so women can, and men and everyone feel like they belong. When you do your best work, when you can be your full, authentic, whole self without any apologies, full stop. And when you can do that and you can be in the environment and you feel you're supported, you're going to do amazing things. And if you don't do that, you're always going to feel constrained. So I think at every stage, from the way we teach our kids to how we bring to higher education, how we offer, how we hire, how we include, everyone wants to make a difference, Brody. Every single human wants to have an impact. And let's make sure we have more defenders than attackers, shall we?
Yes.
So I think we should like work on that.
Right.
I have a saying to the
Thank you.
the young people that I mentor as well as career changers. Don't sweat the JD job description qualifications. I've never been fully qualified for any role I've got, ever, even coming here.
It's fair.
But I'm overqualified for the role when I decide when and if I leave. Because once I get in, I do it, right? But you got to get a chance, and that's it. And I think we're trying to find the perfect solution by these titles and all this other stuff rather than look at potential. But that goes back to the earlier comment that you made. The decision makers on whether to include defer to the comfortable, right? And we never know what that comfortable is consisting of. Personal biases, imposter stuff. I'm not going to hire someone smarter than me. They can take my job. Ageism. You know, I feel I'm not a young spring chicken like Brody, right? And so you got to do it. But I always make sure that when and if I leave, I'm overqualified for the role that I'm in. And that's just the way I operate. So I get it. We got to get people in, give them a chance, grow them up. Corporate America is not helping. A lot of other actors are outside of it. Case in point, we have Michelle on and our cybersecurity.
Yeah,
our cybersecurity capability in our federal and government is lacking because corporate environment is consuming them. The salaries, you can't get the people. It costs.
Yeah,
I think it's level setting a little bit and normalizing a little bit. But
yeah, look, I mean, I like math. I'm a geek. I'm a super geek. In 2025, we're going to have a $10.5 trillion impact related to cybercrime. We have to ask ourselves, if we had that $10.5 trillion for economic opportunities, what would the world look like? How would we think about that? And you have to use that as your available opportunity to think of jobs and possibilities and creativity. And we have to lead with an abundant mindset. And especially now, when times are of constraint. And when times are of constraint, Edward, everybody does this, right? Like we are just like, oh my God, well, let's open up. Let's be positive, optimistic, lead with hope, abundance. Because to me, that's the opportunity we have, that 10.5 trillion, turning that and in creating that into just amazing inventions and amazing possibilities for all. And then there was something you said and something popped up, which is on the screen, which made me think, when you, like you said it beautifully, Edward, like when you look at a job, like, you know, for women, I'll speak as a woman, we have to know everything. Because remember, like when we get in the workforce and you don't see people like you, you're like, I have to work twice as hard to do that. And when I enter this workforce, I want to make sure I know everything about this job to a T and I can do more. But sometimes you have to take the leap of faith and go in. Of course, playful body, do everything. But take a leap of faith, join it, raise your hand, be brave, be vulnerable, be bold. And it's also up to the rest of the team to lead like that. So going back to my party and dance thing, but I think it's very important to raise your hand. And the more people see diverse people, the more they will feel confident to go and join the workforce.
Lessons you learn from Star Trek.
Lessons you learn from Star Trek.
Yeah.
The needs of the many outweigh the needs of the one.
There you go.
There we go. This has become a Star Trek show today, which is cool.
Yeah. Speaking of, I have a little bit of trivia if you want to go there.
Okay, let's do it.
You said a little bit earlier, Houston, we have a problem. There was one episode of Star Trek. Do you remember this one where they were trying to stop, or at least stop the launch of in the past, in the history, trying to stop the launch of a rocket?
I can't remember this. I can't remember the episode. I'm blanking on it, Ron.
Gary 7 and what was it, Assignment Earth or whatever? They went back in time and they tried to stop the guy with the cat. The guy with the cat was
with the cat. Gosh.
Which one was that, Rob? Was that OG, next
That was
gen?
OG. Yeah, that was OG. That was OG.
I'll tell you that my favorite OG one was the one with the black and white faces. Do you remember that?
Yes.
That was awesome.
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
I thought that was brilliant because it kind of nails actually the diversity question. You know, we look for a third party observing and like, well, aren't you kind of similar? Humans are very similar. Like, we are all very similar. We're all very connected. But for them, it was such a fundamental difference on which side. I thought that was, I think that was one of my most favorite episodes.
Yeah, that was a good one.
They're all good. It amazes me that show only lasted 2 seasons, 2.5 seasons.
But it impacted life forever.
Forever. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Great
so, Vasu, I absolutely love what you said earlier. It was almost like a halftime speech at a sporting event, right? Telling people how to. I'm serious. Just listening to you, it's just absolutely amazing, and that's what people I think need to hear, particularly as we try to fill this skills gap, right? So all these, whether it's through diversity, but we also have a lot of people who are trying to pivot from roles and professions that they've done for the past 10, 15, 20 years sometimes, and wanting to get into cybersecurity, and they're afraid to, there's that whole area of that group of people as well. Maria kind of talked about that last week. I don't know if you know Maria that much, but
I know Maria
started
really
life as a dance instructor, and now she's
a dancer, not a dance instructor.
She was a dancer.
Very different thing.
Right.
It says teacher on her LinkedIn profile.
She is so beautiful. Yeah. I know Maria. I adore Maria. I feel, Rod, this is why our tag for Microsoft Security is security for all.
Yeah.
Security should be developed for all. It should be developed by all, no matter where, right? No matter if you are just starting out your career or you have been, that's why I said, you've been in the industry for 30, 40 years, but you want to do security. Security should be all. But I'll tell you a really inspiring story. So this is again, in my Australia trip. I was there meeting one of our customers, amazing human being, amazing CISO. And he started this program at his company where he hires diverse talent. He has a refugee from Syria. He has people who have worked for 40 years in the industry and are doing a cybersecurity shift. And I met them. Amazing women who for maybe a decade had decided not to be part of the workforce for family reasons, raising kids, but want to come back. And he's driving this program to integrate these women because of the talent shortage and also to support diversity. That's what we need to do. So I think we have to have, anyone can do security, anyone. And there is a career in cybersecurity for everyone. Everyone. We in security, we all, the 5 of us, right? It starts in this room and starts with each of us. We need to do a better job building careers for everyone. We need to be more inclusive. We need to embrace that because it's going to be better for everyone. And I would say, everyone, raise your hand. You want security, understand it, but it's amazing. It's an amazing field. It's cool, fun. It's like Star Trek. That's the only reason I'm there.
Mm-hmm.
It looks like Brody's there just for Star Trek too. He's been grinning away. So I'm assuming.
Love all the Star Trek analogies. Yeah.
Science fiction is only science fiction until someone can figure out how to make profit.
Totally.
Exactly.
I'm going to give you a hug because that's what I say all the time.
And once someone figures out how to make profit off of it, the Dick Tracy watch turns into an iWatch.
Right. And the teleporter is super quick. The transporter, are we going to have all hands in Redmond? Everybody just beam over. We got to have an all hands.
Scotty.
Right.
We may not have room in a little while.
In my lifetime, Brody, maybe you can build it. I can say, beam me up, Brody.
Well, to our listeners from the previous podcast, you don't have to wait long. The aliens are coming and they're hungry.
Oh, God. Thank you, Edward, for taking all this positive sci-fi energy and ending it with the aliens are hungry. Amazing.
It's the Borg.
Yep. The Borg, right? Oh, man. This has been great. I don't think I cheesed this much in a podcast, but this really resonates through our show, and I'm loving the month. I'm loving the possibility. Whether we realize it or not, I don't know. As a cybersecurity family or ecosystem, but the possibility and the potential is there. It's just that the right people have to be in the right positions to give the right people the right chance. That's it.
All right. Well, thank
Four
you.
rights is a square, by the way.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I know we got to get you out of here, Vasu. I know you got such a busy schedule. Thank you so much for joining us. It was such a treat.
Yep.
Well, thank you for having me. What a
Honor.
treat, and live long and prosper. See you
Yeah.
all.
Long and prosper.
Thank you, everyone.
Very much.
Bye.